Excellent. Happy Monday. Welcome to Ask Me Anything Live. I see, let me admit Kathleen. We've got Marcia. We've got David who's still connecting. We have somebody that starts with D. We've got Barbara. Welcome to Barbara. Welcome, Kathleen. All right. Welcome to our Ask Me Anything Live for the month of March. How can I help you guys? Here's somebody else coming in. Anybody have a question? Marcia is ready. She's got her hands up. So let's start with Marcia. How are you, Marcia?
Good. Unmuting. I'm good. I have an interesting wrinkle. Last year, sometime I talked to you about changing the name of my business, which I did. And I filled out all the forms with the state, and I have my little articles of amendment here. So it was legal, effective on January 1st. I figured that'd be easier to do it on a year thing.
Set time. Yep.
Yep. So I went into the bank. I got my account changed fine there. Just use the articles of amendment. And then I tried to change Stripe. And Stripe wasn't happy with my articles of amendment. They said they were checking with the IRS, and I needed to change the name with the IRS. They wanted let's see, an SS-4 confirmation letter or a letter 147C.
Okay.
That's what Stripe wants. And so I Googled how to tell the IRS. And what I found was it says to write to the address where you normally file your tax return. And I'm like, well, that's a black hole. So I thought I would wait and ask you what you would suggest.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's interesting, right? There's a ton of even minor changes, minor updates, but across the board for any name changes, personal name changes, business name changes, right? Can be a whole long list of things. And welcome to both Diana and also, who did I just let in? Deborah. Let me just see something really quick, Marcia.
Now, the other thing I did was look at PayPal, and PayPal was fine. I just told them my new name.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at that, but I didn't have to change the IEN.
Yep.
Because it stays the same. And they were happy dappy.
Yeah.
But Stripe is the one who's.
Well, you could, because the only other way around this is, and I see right here on the IRS website where they are saying for a business name change, you literally just see this is
there's no form.
I know this is such a problem. This, and I'm just going to say this generally, this is the problem with governmental agencies. They're not run like a business. A business would never tolerate this amount of inefficiency and, lack of customer service, because there's really easy ways to have that be an automatic submission that gets tracked and you get time stamped. And anyway,
that's all I had to do with the state.
I know. So, a couple things in regards to Stripe is you could let them know that you have followed the process with the IRS. I would go ahead and initiate that process with the IRS. Make a formal copy of the signed letter, right, to the IRS. And whenever, just by the way, anybody who's listening to this or the recording, whenever you send anything to the IRS, you send it confirmation required, like return receipt requested, right? So you send it with confirmation required, return receipt requested, which means that not only will it get tracked within the USPS system, but you'll actually get something back sent to you that has a timestamp that says when it was delivered. That's the key with the IRS. And for anything that you're tracking, that you want to be able to say, as of this date, I took this action. So do that. And then I would provide a copy of that. Here's the thing with the IRS. I've got an issue that I've got to resolve with them right now in relation to one of my businesses. One, they don't even make it easy to submit online payments. Two, once you've got any kind of communication that you need to send with them, you're right, it just goes into a black hole where you don't know time-wise when you're going to be hearing back. And so The other thing that I will often recommend is that if you are working with an accountant who is supporting you, and welcome to Katya, I think that's who I just let in. If you are working with an accountant, you could also separately check if the accountant has any ways. Did you already?
I did, actually. That's who I reached out to first.
And they said, just
and
do
she
this
said,
process.
you know, lawyers usually handle this. So
Oh,
I said,
got it.
okay,
Yeah,
I'm working with Heather next.
totally. And yeah, so different accountants are going to have different levels of experience with the various
Yeah.
forms, communication, all of that, but it's always a good thing to check.
Yeah.
So I would just do your best at your own documentation, but the other thing you can do is apply some pressure to Stripe.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen is your business name will be updated at the state level, right? Is it already updated?
It is. Yeah, as of January 1st.
So what you're going to want to do is log in to your state Secretary of State. So remind me, are you in Arizona?
I'm in Colorado.
Colorado. So you're going to go to Colorado Secretary of State. There's a couple things you can do. One is grab screenshots of your current corporate records there at the Secretary of State's website, because if you search your business name, you'll show up in their database, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll show up probably as the governing person. Usually most states, Secretary of State will have the individual listed as the governing person. You want to screenshot that with the date, like, you know how your computer has a time and date up on the menu bar? You somehow want that to be reflected where they can see the date inside of your screenshot. And, or if you have your calendar open or something, right? And the other thing you can do is request a certificate of good standing from your state Secretary of State, because that is an official document that comes from the state. You might have to pay a few bucks for it, but what it says is, as of this date, this business titled whatever is in good standing in this, in, you know, the Colorado state's database. And so that's another piece of documentation that you could provide to Stripe that shows your title, you know, the name of your business has been updated. Include a copy of that letter to the IRS and say, this is the only process. You could include a screenshot of what the IRS says on that name change page.
Well, and they even told me what to do. Stripe did, said, well, this is what you have to do.
But I would just say, I have other options when it comes to payment processing. Here's the thing, is that you could literally just take your business elsewhere.
Except I can't, because it's the only thing Mighty Networks uses.
Oh, it is? They don't integrate with any other payment processors?
Not yet, because they're tightly integrated with this one, and they don't yet.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. So
I can't. But yeah, and I could. And I went back and forth with somebody in Stripe support about this.
Yes.
I said I have this other document, but anyway.
I know.
It shows the old name and the new name and when it changed.
Yes. Let me see.
But
yeah,
I can try giving him all the rest of this stuff. I mean,
I would, and I would say, you know, I talked to, and you know, whether you call me your attorney or a colleague who's an attorney, and just say, I've done everything required to effectuate this name change, and now I'm in a waiting process, but I need to be able to process payments in the meantime. Is the issue about like payment through Mighty Networks, is it because you're charging for your membership group there?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
so it's not, and I mean, I'm still hooked up. They just won't change the name. So they're just.
Do you have any other mechanism? What I'm trying to figure out is if in the meantime, could you set up like through your website, a subscription model where they actually pay through PayPal?
I could, but it would be a lot of work.
Yeah. Just to change over the payment processor.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have to do I have to then connect to Mighty Networks and say, okay, this person can, you know, I have to bring them in. Whereas right now, the bringing them in and the payment is all integrated, and it becomes
right. No, and I get that. I'm just thinking, if you've got like, let's pretend it's a 3-month, I mean, and that might be optimistic. Let's pretend it's a 3-month waiting period for the IRS, right? Because maybe they get a name change thing and they're like, oh, this is pretty straightforward and they just handle it. I don't know. But it, depending on how many people you're enrolling, like, I don't know if you're getting
Right
ready
now,
to
it's a pretty
launch.
small amount of people.
Well, and that's why my instinct, just business instinct, is to figure out some other way to collect payment, make it easy for people, like, share your payment, your PayPal address or something. You'll get a notification that says somebody enrolled or somebody paid that payment. And then, you or a VA go manually just drop them into Mighty Networks for the time being.
Well, but they have to join. I mean, anyway, I could, but is there a reason to do that rather than just keep using Stripe when they have the wrong name?
Oh, so, okay, got it. So you're still able to process
I'm
payment,
still
is what you're
able to
saying. They
process.
haven't.
They just won't change my name.
Ah, got it. Okay, so that I'm less concerned about, because
Yeah,
from
that's
a
why I thought
record,
I would just,
from a record keeping standpoint, you'll know the date of the name change, right? You can, through your accounting, through your bookkeeping, go back and attribute any income paid through Stripe to your updated business entity. I don't think that's a
Right.
problem.
okay.
Right. And then whenever Stripe gets to it or whatever, they make you walk through the whole system. Maybe you have to hear back from the IRS before they can make that change, then just deal with it then. Yeah. For some
Okay.
reason, I thought maybe they were no longer
Nope.
processing in the meantime while they waited
If they
for the
weren't, I would
accurate.
definitely be setting up with something else. Yes.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
but they're still processing right now. So I'm like,
Yeah. So you're just going to have to do a little retroactive bookkeeping or something, just attribution to the updated entity.
yeah, I'm not going to worry about too much
Yeah.
about that. So,
No,
okay.
no.
All right, then I just wanted to verify how to get a hold of the IRS. So I'll just do that, but I hadn't
know.
thought about the
They do not.
confirmation requested
Yeah.
email. So I will do that.
Yes, do that. Anytime anybody connects to or sends information to the IRS, you always want confirmation receipt and like return
idea.
receipt requested. Yeah, totally.
Cool.
All
Okay, I
right,
think
awesome.
I will work on that.
Okay, good. Good to see you,
Okay.
Marcia.
Yep. Thank you.
Hi, Barbara. I see your hand is up.
Hi, Heather. Thanks so much. My question is concerning privacy policies. And I know that California is very strict. I don't know if GDPR and California are equivalent, but is the privacy policy requirement in California or for California being enforced? And what is the punishment for not having a privacy policy?
Yeah, good question. So I'll start by saying yes, regardless of where you are, privacy policy is required, California or not. And California definitely is one of the more stringent states. They're in the process of setting up basically like an enforcement office for their new privacy laws. Let's admit Maryland. But you do have to understand that the CCPA, and let me just, and they've also got one called the CPRA that's coming into effect. California privacy, it is only going to apply to a certain number of businesses, right? So most of the businesses that I serve actually do not fall within the CCPA, right? You have to have a minimum number of contacts. I think it's something like 50,000 or more. And your primary function or one of the things that you do in your business is actually sell that list, sell that database, right? If you've been on any of my trainings, you know that I recommend against that. And that most of the businesses that I serve are not in the habit of selling their lists, right? And the other threshold that you have to meet to fall under that law is making $25 million a year in your business or more. So it's, it really is a threshold for very, very established small to medium-sized businesses. Most of the folks that I serve, even if they're making several $1,000,000 a year, are not meeting that threshold. So let's start there, that some of these privacy laws that are out there do not even apply to the types of businesses that I serve. That said, the GDPR does apply to the businesses that I serve, which is also why I generally tailor my guidance to, as much as possible, meeting GDPR, the intent of GDPR, even if they cannot, because of budgetary constraints, meet all of the technical requirements of the GDPR, right? So it's a little bit like looking at the intent of the GDPR and doing what we can as small business owners to have kind of a middle of the road approach without some of the cumbersome cost requirements of, for example, actually hiring and paying a data privacy officer, right, to handle all of the, like most of the businesses that I work are not, they don't have a budget to hire a separate full-time person as a privacy officer in their business. And a lot of them don't have the databases that require that, right? That while they might be building decent sized lists, they're not at all into the millions of people range, or even most of them, 50,000. There might be a few clients that meet that threshold, but by and large, most of the people that I serve are not there yet.
So does GDPR enforce its requirement?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. And mostly who they're enforcing it against initially are going to be the big businesses that are really data collectors, right? So we've seen enforcement actions out of the EU that are largely against businesses like Facebook, right? Like major healthcare providers, like Google, ones that are in the habit of collecting tons of data. And that said, I think that there probably are and will continue to be additional and like trickle down enforcement, especially against businesses that get flagged. So for example, in the US, we have the FTC, right? The Federal Trade Commission. And all it takes to get on the FTC watch list is somebody forwarding your information, your email, your list. And let me open up chat because I have not been paying attention, but I always want to make sure that watching that. Okay, got it. Your information, your business information gets forwarded to the FTC because somebody wants to complain about your business practice. And we've seen that a ton during COVID, that it does not matter the size of the business. The FTC has come in and issued cease and desist and all kinds of letters to businesses of all sizes, including tons of very small businesses, right? People running some herbal remedy shop out of their home kitchen. It does not take much except for a violation of the marketing rules to end up on the FTC watch list. And the other thing is a lot of people's business habits are very readily apparent online, right? Our marketing pages, our landing pages, all of this is searchable by the FTC or anybody else. And so when people are making missteps on their websites, including, for example, not posting their privacy policies, not posting the right disclosures at the point of opt-in, that all becomes very readily apparent from anybody that's visiting the site.
Okay, so it's still best to have a privacy policy.
Not only is it best to have, it's required by law. Yeah.
So
it's not optional if you're going to meet legal requirements. It's not required by law to have terms and conditions. It's not required by law to have terms of purchase, right? But are those things that businesses have in place if they care about their IP, their online businesses, their websites, their services? Yes, they're absolutely essential to the proper functioning of an online business. But the privacy policy is required by law. You are required to let people know.
A federal law?
And certain state laws. What we have happening now across the US is a rash of state level legislation that is imitating the GDPR. And some states will even use the same language, like data processor, data controller, which you'll see in the GDPR if you actually have read the language of it, versus other language used in past privacy laws here in the US. And so there's very much a trend towards what's happening in the GDPR GDPR, not only around the world, but in state specific legislation, Colorado being one of them. I think the other one is it's an East Coast state, and then California has its own version of the GDPR, basically. So we're seeing it in a host of states. I could actually wonder if I screenshotted that map. I just went through a training, a CLE on privacy trends within the US, and there's probably 21, 22 states right now that are in the process of enacting legislation somewhat like the GDPR. So yes, you do have to understand it is both state law and federal law.
So would the federal law show up under the FTC website or?
No. So there's, and this is what makes online businesses complex, right? Depending on who you are serving, you can be subject, and let's admit Hillary, you can be subject to federal laws like like COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, like, the Anti-Spam Act, right? There's various federal laws, and then you also have international laws. So for example, if part of your database includes Canada and Canadian citizens, then you have to be very clear that there is a double opt-in confirmation required in Canada for you not to violate their federal laws. So it's a really big bucket. And what you have to understand is depending on where your people are, you have to be cognizant of what the privacy rules are for that particular nation, as well as the US, as well as various states within the US if you do a ton of interstate commerce. And so privacy is very complex. It is increasingly an evolving area of law as the world generally moves towards greater personal ownership of data. It used to be more is more. People could collect whatever they want for however long they want. Now you've got to be able to justify exactly what data you're collecting, why you're collecting it, whether or not you have a legal basis for collecting it, how long you're going to keep it, and also justify why that's reasonable. And then give people a way out of that database. They ultimately need to have control over their personal information, their personal data. So yeah, we could get into a really long discussion about privacy, but just understand it's very complex. And for small businesses, what I generally recommend is that you follow the trend line. You tailor your practices towards being in compliance with the GDPR, which, we're just seeing a lot of legislation move that direction, including around the world.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. All right, Diana, I think you're next. And then I see Hillary has her hand up.
Hello.
Hello.
Actually had a schedule change where I can come now. That's what's like, it's exciting. You know how that goes, right?
I do. Yes, happy to see you. How can I help you today?
So it's along the privacy. It's pretty simple Q&A. So I'm redoing my whole, I've been online since 95. So I have a bunch of different websites. So I'm consolidating and I'm using different ones for different things. Like I have a support site. So my question there is regarding privacy policy, terms and conditions, all that. Can I have those on a main site that's where
like
I direct
the master
everyone
site
there, either by a frame or just a redirect? And then is that, what's the best practice?
Totally. And this is a great question for anybody listening, again, either live or to the recording, because so many of my clients have different domains, right? And where I generally start on the analysis of like, where do I post my legal terms, including my privacy policy? You want to think about it from the user experience standpoint. So for example, if I have like one client who's got, I don't know how many domains, a bazillion domains, all under the same business umbrella, right? So if somebody's interacting with one of his sites, they generally understand his business, like they understand it's all within one umbrella. And because he has like 50 domains, yes, we do that documentation on one page only, his master site, like his primary domain. And then we're inserting the hyperlinks, right, in the footer menu locations across all the other sites or all the other domains, and they redirect to that main site. That said, if you're doing that, so like, let's pretend, and Diana, I can't remember if all of your various kind of business adventures are all related to one, or if you really have kind of separate houses for those businesses, right? So for example, dog training, let's say somebody's a dog trainer over here and also a photographer. That'd be very confusing to have one set of terms, including a privacy policy that handles, multiple sides of the business if they're really distinct from each other, right? You've got different things going on. If though you've got website design and also photography, like you're doing more of a related service that's in the design and creative space, that may make more sense to have a single set of policies that all reflect back to the main domain, because people generally understand, oh yeah, this person's in web design, they write copy, they also do photography, like they are creative, they live in the creative services world and they do these different things all under the same umbrella. Even when you do that though, what I generally recommend is on the pages that house the legal documents, whether it's your privacy policy or anything else, you remove the main header menus, you remove the sidebars, you remove all the design elements, so that when somebody clicks through to that legal document, that's all they're getting. They see that and they're not like, oh, suddenly I'm on a whole new website. They're not having this disconnected, like disjointed experience from a user experience standpoint. And for them to navigate back to where they were, they simply have to click the browser back button because there's no menus on the page. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's how you control the user experience if you've got multiple sites and you're directing them to one set of legal documents. And then, they can click back and that way they're back on the website that they were on when they left to go check out that privacy policy. Now, when it gets to the logistics of, like the next question is, can I use a single privacy policy for multiple businesses, right? Again, I would ask somebody, are they related? Are they largely the same? Are you handling information within those businesses the same way? A privacy policy for this business may not be a fit for a privacy policy over here in this business. Depends on the business, depends on the data flows, depends on what's happening inside of those businesses from a business practice standpoint and who has exposure to and access to the data. So that's kind of a case by case analysis. And I do help clients walk through that if you've got, more detailed questions to dig into about that.
Yeah, well, I have a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing now is I'm breaking things out. I have products and services, publishing, and technology, which is mainly based on what I'm doing business-wise. So, but I thought it would be easier to kind of drive everybody to one location. And I know how to do it in a frame and that kind of stuff, where there's only one, because I don't have 50, but close.
Yeah.
Not all are active. Let's just say that. But
Right.
I've been online since 1995.
Right.
So that is, so I don't have to do like that many updates on a site. So I know you had talked about listing them, and I thought what I would do is list them within their particular specialty.
Yeah, totally. Because you went through the website protection package, didn't you? Yeah. And so you're right. There is a place where is at the top of both the website terms and conditions, and you can actually use that same format inside of the privacy policy. You can list the various sites that are covered by those terms. Again, that generally is going to make the most sense where the businesses are related, right? Where they're not having a totally disconnected, disjointed experience about what's happening within each of those individual URLs.
Right. And then what I'm trying to do is pull things away from my personal brand. Because I do so many things.
Yeah.
And that will, I think, clear up a lot of things.
Okay.
All righty. Lots of work. Thank you.
I know. Good luck. Great question. Super relevant to lots of people in online business. All righty. So I see, and I can't remember, was Katya next or Kathleen? And I think you're both muted. Katya, it looks like you're ready. Let's start with you, and then we'll call on Kathleen.
Oh, okay.
Hi there.
Well, hi. I've been wanting to come on for a while, but I have a specific question. Well, a few.
Yeah.
I'm an author.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can. Yes.
Okay. I'm an author, and I have a top agent in New York interested in my work, and I've sent 6. I know it's exciting.
Let's do a little happy dance for Katya. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I sent her 6 out of 7 chapters,
Mhm.
and they keep encouraging me. They really like what I've sent them. So do I need to worry about them taking and using my material?
Not if they're legitimate. Not if they're legitimate, you don't. Right. So is this a literary agent or a publishing agent?
Literary. They'll get me a publisher
Okay.
or a film person.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you yet have an engagement in place with them, like an actual agreement?
No, that's what I'm concerned about.
Okay. So, and it may be, and I don't know if you know, but based on the conversations you've had so far, are they yet looking for publishing opportunities for you, or is it really the preliminary phase?
It's preliminary. They had an editor they wanted me to work with, but I do have another editor, and I think we have it in good shape. But there's issues about how much of my personal story they wanted integrated into the history.
Mm,
It's history,
yeah.
U.S. history. Um, so I think they're reviewing it to see how
How it
they
shapes
want to
up.
move forward.
Yeah. Well, and you could just ask them if you've got like another call scheduled with them anytime, you could ask them, like, at what point do you put an engagement agreement in place? Right. Because one, they need to help properly set expectations. You know, are they just exploring whether or not they're willing to represent you? Are they willing to represent you and they're trying to get you connected with an editor so that they can take it to the next step for you? Right? But you could just ask them, at what point do you put an engagement agreement in place with your clients so that you have a clear map on what that looks like? And I will say, if you get to that point, and I'm, just gonna say this from experience, do not make any assumptions when they say like, oh, here's our standard engagement agreement. The mistake that I see so many authors make is they're so excited to get to that point, they don't slow down and actually have that reviewed by an attorney who understands those engagements to fix any language or clarify anything, just really get it buttoned up. And they so quickly move forward, they end up sometimes giving away some of their rights or putting a certain amount of control into the lap of the literary agent that you don't necessarily want there.
Yes, I'm definitely aware of that, and that's what I'm looking for when I get to that stage. I want it reviewed.
Yeah, well, and I will, for you and for anybody else listening, I'm going to just pop a link into the chat. This is a starting point. This obviously is not a comprehensive list, but just some things to think about when you're negotiating literary agency agreements. And this will help you issue spot. You'll become a little bit more informed around the conversation that needs to happen when you're putting an engagement like this in place. But obviously, as an attorney, my best recommendation is always, even though it's an amazing opportunity and people are so excited to have it, always slow down and do the thorough review at the start of that relationship so that you can go into it with full confidence, knowing that it's fair, knowing that you're going to be treated the right way, knowing that you adequately understand your rights under the agreement. So it just all works to support a better working relationship.
Yeah, good. And is that something you do?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, reach out if you're at that point. Usually what happens is they would send over like, here's our standard engagement or whatever, here's our proposed engagement. And it's interesting because I worked with one of my clients, we put something like, I don't know, $2.8 million in advance fee publishing agreements in place for him ahead of, so that means he was literally paid $2.8 million ahead of even publishing his book. Wow. So we worked with all kinds, name brand publishers that you would all know, and then their international counterparts. So, I probably reviewed 30 or 40 agreements just for him. in addition to his literary agency agreement. But about halfway through that journey, his agents at the agency in New York left and set up their own agency, I think in Chicago. Anyways, even the difference between those two agreements, right? Because we negotiated one and had him sign one initially, and then halfway through the process had to renegotiate and sign a second. And these are established, very good literary agents, and the quality of their proposed agreements can vary greatly. So just understand there really is no such thing when it comes to legal contracts as like standard agreement, standard contract. It's just not a thing. And yet people, businesses, agencies say that all the time. And the reality is you need to look at every provision and ask questions around, is it clear and is it a match for this particular scenario? What often happens is people repurpose an agreement that was used in another scenario, right? And so it's just, yeah, something to keep in mind. But congrats, that's very exciting. And I hope if you ask the question, like, what does their engagement process look like? You can get some clarity around the timeline, what the next steps would be, at what point they would be ready to, send over an engagement agreement for you.
Okay, so I never heard that term, engagement agreement.
Yeah, it's going to be their client services agreement, right? So from a literary agency, it's going to be like a representation agreement, a literary agent agreement. They might call it different things, but it's their core client services agreement.
Okay. Now, also, I have a really nice website. Where do you get a privacy policy to put on that?
Yeah, great message.
It's my name, KatyaMiller.com.
Yeah. So, a couple things. One is I will send, because this is one of the core ways that I protect my clients' businesses, is protecting their online content and their online databases and everything they're doing online with what's called the website protection package. So depending on what all is happening on your website, the website protection package might be a good fit for you. I'm just going to pop a link into, this has my 4 bundles that make up the Ultimate Legal Toolkit, but the website protection package is just one of them. It's number 2 in the list. Here's the link. It's just my resources page. You can click through and check out the website protection package, and you'll get a really thorough understanding, even just reading the description, of what online information businesses need to protect their online presence. And a privacy policy is a portion of that. But I generally don't break it apart, because if somebody needs a privacy policy, they're also distributing information. They're usually making sales or, driving people someplace where they're collecting a ton of data. So you really want to look at your online business comprehensively. And that's what the website protection package does.
Yeah, and then to receive money for what you're doing, how does that fit in?
Yeah, so within the website protection package, I have a document that's called terms of purchase, right? So the core functions that you protect in the online space are publishing information, collecting information, and then transacting sales around information, whether it's digital downloads, courses, it might be live services, right? Coaching, workshops, whatever. All of that is based on information, right? You're exposing your intellectual property in the process of coaching and working with your clients, delivering a digital course, providing downloads, like whatever the method is. You have to think of your business like an information business. And so you've got website terms and conditions to protect the main function of publishing and sharing information through the portion of your website that's generally accessible to any member of the public, right? And within that, we have to have certain things like limitations of liability, like certain disclaimers, like, language that protects our intellectual property that's exposed through the main portion of our website, right? So there's a lot that goes into just your general website terms when they're done properly. The portion number 2, the function number 2 that we protect against, which is collecting data, right? This is privacy policy. All this discussion that we've had around the importance of privacy policies, understanding what privacy regulations apply, having proper notices. there's two parts with any policies, business policies generally, but certainly privacy policies, right? There's saying what you do and then doing what you say. And what I find is most small businesses in the online space, they think like, oh, I'm going to slap up a privacy policy or use this free template online and I'm covered. No. And Diana, anybody, Marcia, who's gone through my website protection package knows the level of education that's required to actually change the way that you think about your online business, including your data flows, what you do with information that comes into your business, how you keep it safe, who you share it with, how you comply with those rules. And so it's not just about posting policies. It's like knowing how to handle data inside of your business and manage it all the right way. So that the thing about, and I'm just going to toot my own horn, the thing about the website protection package that's different than everything else you get on the market is it comes with education, just essential bits of education to help you think differently about that online business.
Yeah, that's good. I need that.
Yeah.
Does it include the idea of a trust?
It does not. That's estate planning, separate and apart from legal documentation that protects the transaction, protects the IP, right? You separately have to think about estate planning, and that's where a trust falls into the picture.
Well, I have a personal trust, but for my work,
right.
Maybe it's not called a trust.
Well, it can be. Plenty of people set up a trust, but let's be clear that that's generally not for, in most instances, not going to be liability protection when it comes to your business and your business assets, right? So the only way that a trust becomes protection from a liability perspective is when it's an irrevocable trust, right? You have no control over, like you become the beneficiary of the trust, but not the trustee, not the person in control of making the decisions, right? So, and that's, you know, we could go down a whole long sidebar tangent about estate planning, using trust for liability protection, et cetera. I do want to mention that the third piece of that website protection package are, you know, it covers your online sales. So when you're talking about, you know, making sales online, transacting money, the terms of purchase is where you have your refund policy, limitations of liability, disclaimers, stuff related to the IP that's disclosed as part of that service or course or program, right? It's different than what's generally available over here on the other parts of your site. So terms of purchase are specific to what you sell through your online channels, and it's what the credit card companies, the merchant account processors, like payment processors, are going to ask for if you're facing a chargeback request or a refund request. Like, where's the terms? What did somebody sign off on when they purchased this particular thing? And that's what will save your bacon. Okay, Marcia, great. Thank you for your helpful feedback. I'm so glad that, yeah, you saying I got answers to questions that I didn't know to ask, right? Inside of that, there is a copy of the, because I ran the website protection package as a workshop several times during 2020, the first year of the pandemic, trying to get people online. But the benefit of that was that, you know, we had a whole bunch of people in a Zoom room together asking all kinds of questions related to online business that were super helpful for everybody else to hear. So there's a lot of good training inside of that package. Are you going to do
that again?
No, but the recording of it is available and inside of my online version of the website protection package. So it's all built in. Anybody has access to that recording that I did. And in fact, I've had many people go through it since, where they got back to me and said that workshop recording was the best thing inside of that whole package. And it's, you know, I tell people, pour yourself a big cup of coffee and sit down on a Saturday morning and go through the whole thing. It's, you know, you'll get it done. You'll understand your documents. You'll get all of the questions answered, all, you know, within about a 3-hour window.
Sounds great. Well, thanks so much. It's been
You're welcome. Helpful. It's great to connect with you, and congratulations on your success and getting connected to that literary agent. I'm excited to hear what happens.
It's been a long haul.
Yeah, I bet. We'll stay on it. I'm super thrilled for you.
Okay, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Package.
Yeah, no worries. And reach out if you've got any questions. Happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Kathleen and then David.
Hello, I put my question in the chat.
Oh, okay, let me go look. It must have been up above. Let me see. 1 second.
Do you see it?
Okay, yep. 2 questions about privacy. Is Washington implementing European style privacy law? And explain Canada about the double opt-in or opt. Yes. So the quick thing is that in Canada, you have to have what's called a double opt-in in order to essentially enroll people into your online list. Now, this is not the norm in the US, right? The double opt-in is basically where somebody comes to your website, they opt in to hear from you. They get sent an email that says, please confirm you really want in, right? It makes them do an additional click to acknowledge that they want on your list, and you don't enroll them unless you get that second click. Well, a lot of people see that as a barrier to entry, which it is, right? A lot of people are going to miss that email. It will go to spam. They may not get it, whatever happens. They don't provide that second click. And so, generally list building takes a little bit longer with the double opt-in. So people usually want the fastest path. And it means a lot of people, even in Canada, skip that and don't do it. But it is required by law because they just have a higher threshold for anti-spam stuff. And the penalties are actually higher there in Canada, ironically. So that's what you should know. If you've got a heavily Canadian-based audience, you need to pay attention to that. Now, the question about the US, Washington state privacy law is there is an act, let me see, Privacy Act, and I'm not sure, let me look at the...
Since you and me are both in Seattle,
right.
I was just kind of curious.
Yes, nope. And there is, I know that on the training that I went to the other day that talked about the privacy laws in United States, the evolution of Washington does have a version. The irony is that I work with most people being, throughout the US and the world. And so I'm not sure if it's an amendment that's underway. It looks like they did bring a bill in last year. I don't know if it's been completed, if it's been enacted. Part of what I was going to do following up on that recent CLE, because they actually gave a map of the US and showed which states had independent legislation like making their way through in regards to privacy. Washington's one of those. So I just haven't done the research yet on that. But they do have a privacy.
I'd like to know, just because, I could tell some of my friends some things about that.
Yeah.
So I'm really going to try. I mentioned you to one of my friends, who is a speaker. He does different things. He's also a driver, but he's a public speaker, but he hasn't really set up online. He just is by word of mouth mostly. And I didn't even really realize he was doing that because he mentioned that he had to go and give a speech. And I said, oh, you should check her out.
Well, thank you. I always,
because she works specifically with those kind of people.
That's right. Nope. And I always
if you want to start online, you should check her out.
Oh, well, thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen, what I can tell you is go search, because what we have in Washington is called the Washington Privacy Act. I don't know if there's been any updates to it since last spring of 2021, but as of spring of 2021 last year, what it addresses is it gave consumers, so again, leaning towards the GDPR path, the right to access, correct, and delete personal data collected by businesses and companies, who also have to issue privacy notices and adopt reasonable security standards. So presumably that means consistent with industry standards. So you can just go Google that, go Google the Washington Privacy Act, and that may give you a summary of where things stand right now. That said, I don't know if anything else, including updates, are in the works, but I'll be watching for that.
Okay, and I just wanted to say, I said European because I couldn't remember the abbreviation. Can you say the letters slowly for me?
For what are you referencing?
The abbreviation for the European law. I just can't remember the letters.
No, that's all right. Let me type it into the chat for you, Kathleen. It's called the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Act. Let's see, let me make sure I have that right. I always General data protection regulation, right? So the GDPR is for regulation. So just go Google that. There's a ton of information out there on it. If you want, to ping me, I can send you a report that I created about when the GDPR was about to, because it was implemented in 2018, I believe, and went live, I think, May 25th, end of May 2018. I wrote a report on it and what it meant for small businesses. So if you want that, I'm happy to share that as well. Just email me.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right.
It's just that when you say, the reason I asked you that is because when you say it fast.
I know everybody
And
says
I
it
couldn't
fast.
remember what they are when I wrote it, and I said I'll just say it in words that she will get it.
Totally. The general data protection regulation. The funny thing is that that period of time was so intense. I was working evenings, nights to keep up. I had so many clients reaching out and wanting consultations right before that law took effect. My husband would march around the house. He was over it. He was like, I am so done with this GDPR. It was like a swear word to him. Yeah, Barbara gets it. All right. Thank you, Kathleen.
All
David,
right.
how can I help you today?
Yeah, hi. I've got 3 or 4 questions. I'm trying to finish up the questionnaire for the website protection package.
Yeah,
And if I just run through them real super quick. We'll see.
totally.
So on the first page, one of them is, you're asking about what's the city, county where you live,
Yep.
where your business is based. Is it different? If you have a physical business location, blah, 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 and a bunch of other stuff. My question is, should I be showing my home address, which is what I use for my IRS documents and, IRS 941s and my quarterly payments, or should I use what I would call my business address, which is a suite number, which is like a PO box, but we can call it a suite number?
Yeah. So for me, I want to understand because some people, for example, might live in Phoenix, but they have a company based in Delaware, right? I want to understand, is your business address different than your home state? I'm not going to send you anything via mail, right? It is good for me to have your whatever you use as your business mailing address on file. But from the standpoint of, because what it mostly relates to is when we get to the clauses of the documentation that involve governing law and jurisdiction, as well as venue requirements, right? I want to know if your business is incorporated in Missouri, I don't want you to have to travel anywhere. Like we're going to define Missouri as the home, home court, home state where both the governing law applies and where you have proper venue and jurisdiction, so that if you end up for whatever reason having an altercation in your business, people have to come to you to get it resolved, right?
Okay, so both these, one is, I guess mine was more a question of, do I show my personal address on the website, or do I show my, what I would call my business address on the website?
No, you don't need to have either on the website. If you want to give people a place to send mail, where you are going to be required by law to show that is in the bottom of the footer of your CRM, right? So I don't know what you use for your email database. Well, I forget, what program are you using?
REI Black Book.
Okay, if it's like other standard CRMs, it's going to have a required address because you are required under the anti-spam laws and the CAN-SPAM Act to publish a mailing address where people can reach you to also get off your list, right? So you have to have both a physical way and a digital way. That is definitely where I recommend people have a business mailing address or a PO box, someplace that they can receive mail on behalf of their business, but not be disclosing their personal home address in their emails that go out to thousands of people.
Okay, great. Next question is number 12. And you explained it to me before, but I just want to be sure I remember it. It's talking about, do you use influencers or brand ambassadors in your marketing? And I think that was different than the affiliate program, because
it is different. Yeah.
But we have, just go back real quickly, just to explain what the influencer or brand ambassador is in marketing.
Yeah. So there's a set of rules under the advertising laws in the US called truth in advertising, right? Most people have heard of that phrase. They are enforced by the FTC. So I've talked quite a bit about the Federal Trade Commission. And the truth in advertising laws basically say if there is a relationship happening behind the scene in one of your business functions, especially in relation to advertising, in relation to testimonials, in relation to, you know, people doing any kind of promotional product support for you, whatever, you need to disclose that relationship. So let me give you a couple of examples. It used to be like in the early days of Twitter, right? People got on the bandwagon of hiring these people who had massive Twitter followings or an Instagram account, for example, and they'd ask them to do like a promotional post for them, but they were not labeling it as promotional, right? And so this is what a brand ambassador or you know, somebody might do on behalf of your business is you go target them, work with them because they've got a major following online. But what I want to know, the reason I ask it of all my clients is because I want to know if you have hired anybody like that in your business to help with promotion or advertising as a kind of a brand ambassador type of function. We need to make sure you've got proper disclosures in place. Now, not everybody does that, right? Usually businesses of a certain size start to do that because they understand how quickly they can get things in front of other eyeballs using that approach, but we'd also need to have the proper disclosures in place. And that's a function of the truth in advertising laws that require you disclose any relationship, whether it's a paid relationship, whether it's a friend relationship, whether it's a mom relationship. Like as an example, I have a client who is well known in his space. He does fine on his own, and his mom is well known in her segment of the online information space. And she provided a testimonial for his services that she put that they put on his website. If somebody didn't know them personally, they may not know that's actually his mother. And so when I was doing his website protection package, I was like, whoa, back. We actually would have to have a disclosure related to this testimonial because this is a familial relationship. Not everybody's going to know that. And it will change the way they perceive that particular testimonial, right? I've got an insane number of cousins. If I rounded them all up to give me testimonials for my websites, you know what I mean? People would want to know that. It really does change the perception of how that testimonial fits for somebody, for a consumer. So that's just where, you know, having awareness of the truth in advertising laws and making proper disclosures is not only good business practice, it's required by law.
Okay, so for the sake of the application questionnaire, sorry, that I'm filling out, when I get into email type sharing later with people, that doesn't apply right now.
It doesn't apply right now if you're not using brand ambassadors in your business, if you're not paying somebody to kind of be a spokesperson for your business and share your services or your offerings. Different than an affiliate relationship where somebody else may be like emailing on your behalf saying, hey, David's awesome, go check out his online event or whatever, right? They would need an affiliate disclosure. By the way, this is an affiliate link. You know, if you click here and purchase this program, I'll be getting a percentage of the income, whatever. So affiliate disclosures, if you are acting as an affiliate on behalf of somebody else's business, you have to make that disclosure at or very near the point that of information that necessitates a disclosure. This is why there's legal cases that actually revolve around like Twitter and Instagram that say 120 characters is enough to make that disclosure, right? You cannot, because people would be like, oh, it wasn't enough space, or they buried the disclosure clear at the bottom of their email or at the bottom of the web page. Not good enough. Whenever you are required to make a disclosure, it needs to be very close to the thing that necessitates a disclosure.
Great. And last question. I want to get your opinion on this. It's number 22. About refund policy. So in my case, you know, the primary aspect of my website has got workshops that they can buy with a credit card through Stripe, you know, at least while Stripe still likes me, you know, they're very fickle, but, you know, through Stripe. And so on the website, they get an instant purchase and instant access through Kajabi. So what would be your opinion of, right now, I don't have any refund policy, but you know, what would be your opinion of how that would be handled, or what you might see with other influencers out there, what they might be using, especially in light of having an online portal that they can get an instant access to.
Yeah. So the importance of the refund policy is that you have one that's clearly stated, not that it guarantees a refund, right? So a refund policy could be, hey, we've poured blood, sweat, and tears into this course. It's all access. As soon as you purchase, you get access to everything. We do not provide refunds at this time. That's a refund policy, right? It's just saying you're not going to be providing any refunds. So that's one way to create a refund policy. You know, please be sure that it is a fit for your needs prior to your purchase. Reach out to us with any questions. You just want it to be clear and written so that people cannot misunderstand what the policy is. Likewise, some people, depending on the cost of the course, usually the influencing factors of a refund policy. And actually, let's just talk about the 3 types of refund policies. In my mind, there are 3 types of refund policies that are out there, right? One is kind of the no questions asked guarantee type of refund, right? You can test drive this program, you know, no questions asked. If it's not a fit for you, we will provide a refund. What this is going to do for most people is it's going to get more sales, right? Confidence level goes up when somebody sees a refund policy like that. Like, oh, I can test drive it. If I don't like it, I'll get my money back. That may be a good fit for a lot of business models that have a low dollar product, a low dollar offering, and they want like as much of the marketplace as possible. They do not want the refund policy to be a barrier to entry. Now, what's also going to happen is that they will have more people exercise that refund policy, right? So they will be having to deal with a certain amount of refunds, but that's usually a cost benefit analysis that they make, and they decide, I'm willing to do with that because of the trade-off of increasing sales for the folks that will buy it and like it and not ask for a refund. Right? So there's that one. No questions asked type of guarantee. Usually the limiters for a policy like that are going to be around time frame, right? 7 days from the date of purchase. 30 days to test drive this product or this course, right? Really depends on the course, depends on who's offering it, depends on how comfortable they are giving that length of time. What I generally recommend is, let's pretend you've got a 30-day course, right? And it also partly depends on how your course is set up. Now, if it's like all access to all content, but it's like a beefy course that, and you know they're not going to get through all of the content in 7 days, right? Maybe 7 days is fine, because it would actually take them 30 or 45 or 60 to go all the way through the trainings. Maybe you're comfortable with that. Maybe you shorten it and it's 3 days. Like, look, you pop in and you check it out and you spend a few days poking around, and that's enough time to decide, right? That may be okay for some people. And I will also say that I have plenty of clients that are like, no, this is a low enough product price. If somebody purchases, they can deal with it because I know the value is there and I don't want the hassle of dealing with refunds. That's fine too. My encouragement for anybody creating any kind of policies in your business is, one, you want it to work for your business model, and you want to write policies that help you feel great about your business. And maybe you're a person that wants a higher level of commitment from your clients, right? So just like buying a digital course, maybe you say no refunds are available. It's also like, and for people, anybody here who's been through a really high-end coaching program, which David, I'm sure you have, and I know you offer an extraordinarily high-end coaching program. There are some coaches out there that are not going to even offer payment plans. The reason being is they want a higher level of commitment from their clients than standard. And they're like, look, your credit card company can finance this situation, right? Your bank can like go somewhere else for financing. I'm not going to offer a payment plan because I wanted a committed client. You pay upfront because that, otherwise I can offer that seat to somebody else. And that's a perfectly fine business policy. And yet other people in the same position, other coaches are going to go, no, I really care that this is accessible. I want more people in the program, and I'm able to coach quite a few. So I'm going to offer a payment plan. And generally what it means is that they're going to get probably slightly more numbers, but they can also end up with less committed clients. It's again, that trade-off. So there's no wrong way. It's just what feels good to your business, including in regards to refund policies. And then, which of the 3 paths are you going to choose, right? No questions asked guarantee. The second type of refund policy is the action-based policy. Like, we're so confident that you're going to love this that we offer the following refund policy. If you do all the steps, you take all the actions required, you do the homework and you submit it to us, you know, maybe you have a time frame, maybe you don't, but you take the action, we know you'll get the result. So if you take all the action, you still don't get the result, then we will offer you a refund. Generally, there's still going to be a timeline around that, right? So if you know, you know, and you can either offer that for the full course. Let's say that somebody's like, yeah, it's a 2 or 3 month program. And if they get to the end of it and they're not happy, I'll offer a refund. Somebody else might say, look, if they do the action for the first 30 days, I know they will start to see results. And so that's the window of time I'm getting them to do the action-based guarantee. So again, the timeline doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can craft it to whatever timeline you feel like is a fit for your offering and your students. But the action-based one simply means they have to take action. They can't be somebody who buys the course, never logs in, emails you on the 30th day and says, I want my money back. And you're like, guess what? You didn't do any of the actions, right? So that's the second type of the refund policy. The third type of policy is the one that I said at the beginning before we got into the 3 types, which is, you know, we've poured blood, sweat, and tears into this. It's an all access course. We do not offer refunds for this particular offering at this time, right? Please be sure that it's a fit for you, for your particular use before you purchase it. So that's really the range of policies that you have to choose between. And then the variations on that are going to be the time limiters, right?
Okay, great, fantastic. And this guarantee, is this going to be part of the terms of service, or this has to be added somewhere else on the website by a?
No, so once I get your responses to that question, I build that into your documentation so that it becomes part of your terms of purchase and they're exposed to it, yeah, at the point of purchase. And then I can also show you, because some people like to pull out the refund policy and put it right on the sales page as well. That way people do not miss it, they're not misunderstanding it, etc. We talk about where that can go also when we are delivering the final documents.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to be careful because I use Kajabi, and so I don't know what ability we have to do anything with the Kajabi payment page itself.
Well, Kajabi is definitely going to have the functionality that is required, like the terms of purchase checkbox. I have read and agree to these terms of purchase. It's a major platform, and you know, thousands, if not millions of people use it. So it's going to have that functionality. Now, whether or not you're able to maximize that in relation to your particular offering may depend on whether you've got the right web support person in place, right? I'm not sure if it's like just something that can be turned on, like any old user can access it, or whether you have to have a piece of code inserted into your website. Like, I don't have all those answers. I just know Kajabi allows it and will have the functionality to do that. And then the question is, how do you solve that little puzzle?
Okay, so it's customizable then.
Totally, should be. And really, like, anybody here knows the iTunes like terms of service, like checkbox functionality, right? I have read and agreed to the terms of purchase. That is what you want. You want somebody to take an active step in acknowledging those terms before they can give you any money. You do not want them to be able to skip over that part and give you money and not acknowledge the terms that you have in place. Defeats the purpose of going to all that work and getting them done. But additionally, you may want to pull out that refund policy language and post the language right on your sales page, which is very doable, whether it's Kajabi or any other, you know, website format.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. That was all my questions. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Great questions. Look forward to helping you with that, David. All right, folks, look at us. We just went a few minutes over the hour. Do we have any other final questions before we say goodbye? Anything else? Yeah, Barbara?
Well, I just want to comment that sometimes Kajabi-like platforms have terms and conditions to agree with, and then you have your own terms and conditions to agree with. So I've wondered if those ever conflict.
Well, and yes, you're right. Kajabi could have multiple sets, and let's talk about what they are. They're going to have a set of terms that apply to you as a host on their platform. And they may also, although I'm not clear if they put this on everybody's sites, may have an end user term of service as well. Generally, what I gather about most of these large platforms is that the most important set of terms is between Kajabi and David as one of the hosts on their platform. I don't think that they're generally in the habit of collecting all of the third-party information, although I could be wrong. Probably depends on the platform. Whether, for example, Kajabi is going to be marketing separately to anybody that David brings in through the platform. So as a host on that platform, you'd want to understand that. You'd want to go check that out and figure out, when I bring, let's say I bring, several thousand of my list onto this platform, is Kajabi going to be emailing them and marketing to them separately, right? But certainly, and I know Marsha and I went through this, and I think she probably reached out to Mighty Networks because that's the platform that she uses. There are a few newer platforms that are not quite with the times, where they are not offering appropriate placeholders for the host's terms on the platform. But you really want to make sure that whatever host you're working with, whether it's Teachable, Kajabi, Mighty Networks, right, any of the others, especially the e-learning platforms, that they provide a mechanism for you to host your own terms and conditions and terms of purchase and privacy policy. If their platform is functioning as your website, you need to have locations for those important legal documents.
Thanks.
Yeah, great question. All right. Well, thank you all. It's great to see you. Happy Monday. I hope you have a fabulous week. And, of course, show up again next month, same time. Although, quick note about April is it's the 3rd. We have spring break next month. I believe it's the 3rd Monday of April, not the 2nd. So that's the one anomaly for 2022. All right. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate you all. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.